Good morning, everybody. Cheers. Welcome to Stream Day. Nice, freshly brewed coffee. I would have preferred to actually buy one this morning. I was going to on the way. Ding dong, Avon calling. Why did I even think of that? Crazy. Avon? Is that even a thing anymore? Does everyone remember Avon? Good morning, all. In this bright, cheery Wednesday morning. Not so cheery. Not so bright. That's okay. Stop making me do work. Geordie. What's Geordie doing? What's Johnny? Why are you going to Geordie? What? So I got to ask straight away, what grok trolling? Red Madness? Interview trolling grok. What is that a thing now? Is that a like a new pastime, a new hobby? AI trolling? I must be out of the loop completely. So, oh, jeez, hit the keyboard. Didn't mean to do that. YouTube is censoring the word oink. What? Really? You can't do oink? What is going on with this world? The millennials are trolling grok. Johnny can't oink. Sion would rather be asleep. Ah. Sorry, Sion's frustrated because Sion has some broken code in front of him. Always happens for a demo, doesn't it? Yay! Everyone now type oink. Alex typed oink and it worked. Troll MQ is also prohibited. How can that be when you just type them? I don't understand what you're talking about. I must have missed a memo. I don't know. Hi, everyone. So, I'm going to wait until there's a few more people on. Give people a few more minutes to join. Pulling my chain. Oh, as a mod you can, but as a non-mod you can't? Really? Pig sound. Oink. Pig sound. Okay. Dutch Taurus is not impressed. So I've got some SQUiXL-Y stuff to show today and to now fix and work on. And I'm hoping that I can remember because I haven't touched SQUiXL for a while, the code base for a while, and it's not simple. Of course not. But I did something very cool, very, very cool with SQUiXL the other day. Something I'd planned to try for a while and I just hadn't got around to it. And I finally thought of a way to do it and I did it and it works and it is glorious and it shouldn't be possible. Well, it should be possible the way I did it, but it was something that was previously not possible on SQUiXL. Wow. Ramble. Anyway, so I want to show that to you, but I was moving it over to Platform.io instead of Arduino because, let's face it, no one wants to sit 20 minutes at a time to wait for Arduino to compile or throw an error after the 20 minutes. So, and I have an expressive core version issue with Arduino. So I thought I'd move it to Platform.io. It'd be easier to show, and there's a few more things I want to do to it, whatever, and can't get it to compile for various reasons. We'll get there. I'll fix it. It's all fine. Now it disallows pig emojis as well. Has Trump made a new law? Or, careful, remember, no politics. No politics, Johnny. Careful. Okay, it's been a whole 5 minutes. How long are we going to wait before I start talking about it? I don't know. I'll say hi to folks in the chat first. Sorry, excuse me. So I'll start. I was first. So Moo, hi Sion, hi Unexpected Maker. Graham, good morning. Johnny, hello. Rat Madness, Old Man Maker is here. Yay! I thought you'd be asleep. But thanks for staying up longer. Antonio, hi. Dutch Taurus, Moo, Embedded Hobbyist, Ding Dong. Yeah. Did anyone answer? Does anyone remember Avon? Is that still a thing? I don't know. Sid, good morning. Geordie, hello. Blam, hello, Blam. I'm going backwards. Life in cycling. This is jumping around. My window is jumping around. This is frustrating. Alex, hello. X-Micron, hi. I think that is all who is chatting anyway. That's everyone who's chatting in chat. Yeah. I think I got oh no, Peter. Hello, Peter. Good morning. How are you, Pete? Haven't seen you for ages. I hope you're well. Avon was a pyramid scam. No, it wasn't a scam. It was a pyramid. Well, it wasn't an illegal pyramid thing. But no, it wasn't. And there's still plenty of things around like that. But Avon, it was anyway. Scam or not, I was never involved with Avon. I'm not, but I know a little bit about it. So no, it wasn't a scam. But it was definitely multi-level marketing for sure, absolutely. But is it still around? I'm just curious. I don't know what made me, like, straight away as soon as Embedded Hobbyist went ding dong, I went Avon calling because that was like an old Avon ad or something. I'm pretty sure. Oh, you kiddies won't remember. That's fine. So okay, I don't think there's going to be many more people joining the stream. So, going to jump into it. We're going to fix the code. Oh, it's going to give it away. But if I jump onto the code base, it's going to give it away what I did. So, I I do. And, oh, yeah, Amway as well. Amway was, yeah. Maybe Avon wasn't multi-level marketing. I don't know. Amway was. But again, yeah, anyway, my mum used to do Avon. Yeah. I keep my Avon in my Tupperware. Come on, Graham. Tupperware, that was huge in Australia for a while. My mum used to buy a lot of Tupperware. For those who don't know where Tupperware, they're just containers, right? Like containers that you're just everyday containers now, right? You get at IKEA or everywhere else. But it was before plastic containers were just a common thing. There was Tupperware, and you could get all sorts of shapes. Tupperware for your cakes, and Tupperware for your baked goods, and Tupperware for your storage. Anyway, yeah, all the Tupperware parties used to do. Yep, yep. Oh boy, wow. Did they put shrimp in the barbie in Tupperware? No, no, I don't think so. Oh, you put everything in Tupperware. That wasn't just for the kitchen. Lego was in Tupperware. Anyway, okay, let's just stop with the Tupperware. What a silly name, Tupperware. Like what? It's catchy. Wow. Still see Amway stores. Oh, really? Wow. Tupperware bowls that I have in my breakfast for the last 60 years. Wow. Better obvious. Wow. You're old. Sorry. But you are. If you've been eating breakfast out of a bowl for 60 years, and considering that infants don't eat out of a bowl until they're what, 2 or 3, that makes you old. AJ, stick my Avon in my Tupperware inside the Corningware bake tray. Yeah, but Corningware was a brand. That wasn't a. They didn't do Corningware parties. People couldn't afford Corningware at the time. It was elitist glass. Anyway, we're going to stop this. The guy who started it was called Tupper. Was he really? I don't know anything about the history of it. I still call anything with a lid Tupperware. That's funny. Endless warranty. Like an endless Coke. Okay. So here we go. Time to give it away. I'm going to switch to my coding view and my SQUiXL, which is just running my standard firmware right now. Yay. Look, errors. Errors. So can everyone read the title? I made the text big. Hopefully everyone can read it. So this is a SQUiXL Hey Amanda, how are you? Thanks for joining. There's a SQUiXL micro SD MP3 player. And you're all supposed to go, wait, what? What? Come on, I can't hear it. Wait, what? Oh, sorry. I'm in a weird mood. This Tupperware thing is just set me off. There we go. Yes, thank you. So for those astute following along, those that have SQUiXLs, but even may not remember.
The Almighty says, wait, what?
Wait, what? There was a thanks, Johnny. I mean, that sounded a bit lame, but that's okay. That was actually good. Wait, what? So because there aren't enough I/O in on the ESP32 S3, definitely in SQUiXL, I've had to share a bunch of I/O through an I/O mux, and the two peripherals I share on an I/O mux is the I2S amplifier output and the micro SD card, which means only one can run at a time. So streaming audio off SD card is impossible. Right? I mean, even if I tried to switch the peripherals super duper quickly, which I can't, I'll tell you why in a moment. The sound out like this, right? It wouldn't work. Colinator, hello. Did you catch the stream in your left hand or your right hand? Are you right-handed? Left-handed? Oh God, I'm so bad. Anyway, so the reason I can't switch them quickly is I can't just switch the I/O. I have to, if I've got the I2S amplifier, if I've got the I2S peripheral initialized, I have to actually shut it down before I can switch it to the micro SD. And if I am using the micro SD, I need to actually shut down SPI before I switch back to the I2S interface. And then I have to recreate the I2S interface, right? And when I go back to SD, I have to shut down the I2S interface, the peripheral, and then I have to create the SD card interface, right? So, and that takes time, right? It might, only be milliseconds or, tens of milliseconds or whatever. But the fact is, I can't do that in stream audio, right? The second I stop the I2S amplifier, no sound comes out. Hey, Matt, you made it. Don't you have to be going to an airport? Aren't you going to the airport? Chunk buffering into the SRAM. No, because even still, the second I have to go back to the SD card to get more, the audio stops. If there's not an issue of accessing RAM, the issue is there is no physical peripheral anymore because the I/O isn't there. The I/O is physically being moved to a different device. You leave in 30 minutes. Okay. Leave to go to the airport in 30 minutes. Don't get yourself late. Don't get there late. I have many stories of turning up late. Oh, no, it's not a global interrupt. It's a physical disconnect. I'm using an I/O mux. So the chip S3 to an I/O mux, and then the I/O is split. When it's going this way, it's physically not here. I physically can't send data to the I2S amplifier. It's got no physical connection to the S3. And when it's the other way around, there is no physical connection, electric physical connection to the S3 on the micro SD card, right? So it's it's not there. I can't talk. I can't stream anything out of the I2S amplifier. So this has been annoying me for a while. It was a limitation I knew about when I did it. Has it got any buffer space? Okay. Think about what you just asked. Oh, does the amp itself have buffer? No, but no. The answer is no.
Super chat.
Anyway, that's actually funny. Matt, that's actually funny. An engineer is never late, nor is he early. He arrives as soon as there is sufficient bandwidth. In my best Gandalf voice. The amps have a buffer, but it doesn't matter. The can't be controlled. There is nothing controlling the chip. right? So just glue two SQUiXLs back. No. So I knew this going in. Some of you might remember I had a choice when I was designing SQUiXL. I had a micro SD card and I had just a PWM buzzer on one IO, right? And so that's what I was going to do. But the you can't do anything with the buzzer, beeps and boops, but you can't make it like, you know, SQUiXL talks. It whatever, and it can play whatever samples, WAV files, and MP3s. Like I wanted to be able to make SQUiXL a nice audio thing, right? And audio is fine, streaming off the internet, all those things, that all works. But, well, not streaming MP3s, whatever, at the moment, that's an expressive thing. But I knew that either choosing one or the other was going to piss some people off, right? Like, if I only included an SD card, those that didn't care about that but wanted good audio were going to complain. And those, if I only did audio, those that wanted to use an SD card would complain, right? So my choice was to include both, and you choose in your software which one you want to use. And you can switch between them, not a problem, right? But switching between them is not the same as buffering audio. So I came up with an idea, and, you know, I came up with an idea and I got it working, and I can now do an MP3 player of MP3s on an SD card, arbitrary number. There are some caveats, we'll talk about that in a moment, playing on the I2S audio out, and it works great. Now, I can probably show it to you working now if I just delete these two files. Or I could try to fix this, but for the moment what I might do is just delete them. This is going to be the quickest thing. It's just a PDM output from the ESP826 audio library, right? So, really, where's my delete? All the way to under, I can't see from that. Okay, I'm going to delete those and now see if I can compile. This thing is in my way, I can't see. Okay. Let me see if I can compile. I'll get it, if I can get it compiled, I'll show it in its current infant state. And then we, what is going on? There is, since I tried setting up this project, I'm just having lots of problems. I'm just going to get rid of those. And I don't know why I can't compile this. What audio chip? It's the Max, what is it? 98357A I2S amp, and obviously ESP32S3. Okay, it's compiling now. ESP32S3, yep, the S3. In this case, it's the S3R8. So, let me flash it and see if it works. So I'm using, there is no free I/O. Like, I've even got an I/O expander on there. I've not played with the 2350. I've really not found a use for it in any of the stuff I'm working on. Oh, I've got the volume down. This should be royalty-free music, by the way, but I don't know if oh my God. Can you hear the music? I'm going to turn it up. I've got the gain down really low because I was doing this at home and I was annoying my family. Okay. I'm just going to recompile. It's going to go again. God, that's right in the... It's reflection. I need to get rid of the... It's my lights. I might have to turn my lights off. Just a bad angle, reflecting. It's not the same song on repeat. No, it's a song. Yeah, they're it's my style of ambient music, right? Okay, you should be able to hear it now. So you can't do this with a buzzer, right? So right now I've got it, if you touch the screen, it'll change tracks, I think. Oh, interesting. Did I turn that off? If I get demonetized, whatever, these should be open, royalty free. Do I not have changed? Yeah, not touching. That's interesting. I must have broken something at some point. Let me anyway, okay, I'll change the track. I'm not going to want to listen to it. The point is, it's working. And I'll have to explain what I did, but why can't I change tracks? I wonder if I've broken my touch. Yeah, Cafe Del Mar, that's okay. I prefer more psychedelic trance. I don't know what this sounds like for you guys. The audio quality is great. These speakers are absolutely... A little tiny speaker. That's the speaker. Right? Phenomenal sound. There's no stop button on this though. Okay, I'm just putting it in download mode just to stop the audio. So let me explain what I did, because it's pretty cool. I use the ESP8266 audio library. I know there's a couple of... There's that, and then there's the I2S audio library. Well, sure, there's not a lot of bass in a little speaker like that. It's not like I can add a subwoofer, you know. But I use this library because it's got some functionality the other ones don't have, like being able to generate your own wave files in code, as in to make all sorts of sounds. You can actually generate functions that actually create wave files and stuff like that, right? And it also has the facility to play audio from ProgMem. So I can have audio as header files, right, rather than in the file system and stuff like that, which the other library doesn't have. That's why I chose this. I've been working with it for quite a while. And so it has this concept of you create a file source, okay? So file source is a buffer, or it's a file system, it's a function, it's a stream, here's the progmem, it's file source is your SD card, stuff like that, right? And then once you've got a file source, you use a generator for what type of file it is, right? AAC, FLAC, MIDI, in this case MP3, and then you have an audio output for it. And in my case, I'm using the I2S audio output. So you hook those three things up, and that's how it goes. But if you use the SD file source, it requires access to the SD the whole time, and it streams it a bit at a time, right? They've got this thing here for SPI-RAM buffer, and it's not what you think it is. It's not like where you can just put stuff in PSRAM and play from it. It needs to hook into another file source. It just lets you buffer some of it in PSRAM, right? Like if you were streaming, you could stream it into that buffer and then play it from there to have a bit more buffer. So none of these would work for me because they all require tapping the SD card constantly to get the audio out to play it as it's coming through, right? The overall function of the file source, right, if you look here, is it's got a read, it's got an open, a read, a seek, and then obviously you get position, get size, whatever. So it's designed to open and read a chunk, seek to a bit, read a chunk, seek to a bit. So it's designed to bring bits a bit at a time, right, to keep the memory usage down. And every file source inherits off this. But I thought to myself, well, why can't I treat a chunk of allocated PSRAM as a file source and implement the ability to seek out of PSRAM, which has issues we'll get to in a moment, as in issues for SQUiXL, right? But what it means is if I could, like if they can do it off ProgMem, and the thing with when it does it with ProgMem is it doesn't load it all into memory. ProgMem is just pointing to flash. Hey, Beata. And so it's just, it's rather than a file system, it's program space on the flash. So that is still going to the flash and pulling bits of it out from the flash, which means I'd have to preload something in. Anyway, it's not going to work. And I could have used LittleFS, where you copy a file or files onto LittleFS into the partition, but there's only like 12 megabytes there. So you put 2 MP3s on there and that's it. You're out of space. You can't fit anything else, right? And then how do you get the MP3s on there? And how do you take them off and move them? It wasn't what I wanted to do. So I came up with a audio file source in PSRAM. It's got exactly the same functionality, right? It's got the open, whatever, seek, read, but it's also got an init and a load from file. Hey, Dave. And so what this does is it allows me to allocate a large chunk, and I'm talking about a large chunk of PSRAM, right? And then have that chunk always used to load an MP3 into, but then the audio system uses that PSRAM as a file. It thinks that it's a file, an MP3 file, but the MP3 file is just sitting in PSRAM, right? It sounds like a simple thing. Turns out it kind of was and kind of wasn't. The issue is an MP3 file generally, even a 2-minute, a 2-minute 128 kilobits per second 44K MP3 file is 10 meg. It's somewhere between 7 and 10 megabytes in size, right? Okay, I've got 8 megabytes of PSRAM and the screen requires a large chunk of PSRAM. A large chunk. So I don't have that much space. So the caveats for this are, although you can go, you don't have to do this, but it just means that you won't be able to load a whole file in at a time. But all of the audio I've done is 22 kilohertz at 96 kilobits per second, right? Which still sounds great. It's coming out of a mono small speaker through an I2S interface. It's not, for any of you audiophiles out there, this hardware can't play better than that. So I could probably do it 11 kilohertz. Will sound fine because the hardware itself is the limiting factor. So what my code does is it creates a chunk. Okay, I'll show you here. So the very first thing when it boots up is it scans, it switches to the SD card. It scans all of the files, in my case, inside a folder called MP3. So it looks for a folder called MP3, and it goes through and it grabs all of the file names and their sizes of all the MP3s, which you would have, no, you saw them all on the screen before, and it puts them all into an array, a list, right? A vector. So it doesn't have to go to the file system anymore to know what's on it. It's pre-cached all of the music file names and their sizes. And then what it does when it goes through them all, it works out the maximum file size, so the largest MP3 that it's scanned, okay? Then it shuts down the, well, in this case, it doesn't shut down the SD card yet. And so what load next track does is it literally goes and switches to the SD card. That's what this mux switch does. It opens the next track. So I'm you know, at the end of a track, it just goes to the next one, whatever. It loads it in, and then it puts it into PSRAM from this load from file, right? And then it switches back to the I2S audio amplifier and starts playing it. Simple as that. And actually, right, so you can see here it's gone, it's added all the files. Why is it not, oh, have I got the log? Hang on. I don't think this is my final code. Hang on. Yeah, this is supposed to be printing out the progress of the track, but it's not printing out. Interesting. Just one per sec. Hang on. Yeah, I don't know why the audio is not coming out. It's also not touching. Okay, anyway. So basically what this lets me do is switch to the SD card, load a whole track into PSRAM, right? And then switch back and play it. And when it finishes, it switches back to SD card, loads the next track into PSRAM, and switches back. And it's loading it pretty quick. I'm getting like over a megabyte per second of SD card access time. I've tweaked the speed of the SD card. So my tracks are between 3 and 4 megabytes in size. So it's allocating, you can see here, it loaded that track at 1.09 megabytes per second. And the max buffer size in this case, so the largest file it found was 3.75 megabytes. So you can see here, this is how much, there was that much PSRAM, almost 8 mega PSRAM free before, and then after allocating it, there's 4 megabytes of PSRAM free. So technically you could do a larger file, but it'll just sit there and by itself go back to the previous, like it'll play it and go to the next one, and when it gets all the way to the end, it'll just keep playing them through. And so you can stick as many MP3 files as you can fit in an SD card, and it'll just play them. And I thought that was pretty wicked. But I don't know, no one here seems quite excited by it. So I want to know why my touch... think something is... I don't know why the audio is stopping. Just hold on a second. I need to look. Something weird is going on. What's the date? 22nd. Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday. Yeah, okay, that is up to date. Hey, Magicky. Magicky's excited. Life and Cycling likes it. Thank you. I thought it was actually a really elegant solution. Is it? Do I have a touch display successfully? Now let me stick a delay. Let's need to see if the touch input is failing. I want it here. Okay. I'm just going to turn the audio down. It's loud now. So I need to also add a way of setting the volume. I thought I had a set volume. Hang on. Set volume. What does it do though? Right. And what's my max volume? 40. Probably want it in terms of percentage, don't we? Probably makes more sense to do in percentage. But it's not out. Oh, right. Okay. That's probably why volume's not working. Because I put the mixer in. Okay, so just bear with me a second. I've had to hack a lot of this stuff to get all this going. Okay, I should now be able to set the audio and play MP3 off. And I can do it here now. Where's audio.set volume? I don't know, we'll make it 50%. I might tell you how to do one. Gets rather tedious if you have hundreds of files. Oh, what? To do what? Oh. Technically clever. I wonder how the average person knows how to re-encode MP3s to that band. We don't have to. It's just that obviously you can't fit an 11 megabyte file inside 8 megabytes. So there is okay, so I've got a maximum, I've got like a buffer. No, where is it? Load. Right, so what I don't have something I need to add is I need to add gating to make sure that you can't add more than the amount of PS RAM available, right? And all that'll mean is if it can only fit 2/3 of your song in, it'll just play 2/3 of the song and then go to the next track, right? So I want it to not crash; it'll just fail nicely. But at the end of the day, well, this isn't for a consumer, right? This isn't like someone buying it off the shelf in Walmart and then trying to work out how to encode MP3s for it, right? Like this functionality won't happen unless you're running this code. If you can't, if you know how to use Platform IO and flash code on a SQUIXL, you can work out how to reduce the quality. But VLC, for instance, is what I use. The audio quality is pretty good, I gotta say. Like, compared, I mean, sure, it's not as good as maybe my phone or an iPad or my computer, but it's not bad. And the type of things that would be really cool for would be like, like chiptune type songs, or songs that have got, I guess, a bit of that tinnier sound. Tinnier, not tinnier as in tinnier, but tinnier sound. Okay, I want to flash this and see what happens with the serial output. This is behaving differently out of Arduino than what it is in here, but as you saw before, I've been having weird problems, compiler problems in here, and I'm not sure why. Astral projection, 9 minute, yeah, I'm not going to fit that in. Definitely not. Okay, so this is going to do that 3-second pause so we can see right here. Oh, I can crash. Non-stop returned. What is this though? Audio class, set volume. Oh my god, it's not initialized yet. Right. It's got to be done at whenever it switches to yeah. I have to do it at the point of switching back to I2S audio. Load next track. Set the volume. Whoops. Yeah, that's boot looping. But it definitely, there was a wire problem. So I need to now work out why I'm getting VNC can convert 100 files in one thing, like in, okay. It won't flash it because it's boot looping. I should put some guards around those things. So as I said, I need to shut down the whole peripheral, including killing all of the references to all the audio stuff. So when I stop it, where's stop? Right, I have to like stop them, and then I have to kill them. Okay. I didn't see the output. Great. Reset. Hey, Grindor. Screen in it. Right, it's not picking up the touch. And that volume is still too loud. I don't think the gain is linear. That's way too loud. Jesus. Oh, I don't know if that's boot looping sounds familiar. Yeah. It's not an MP3 though. Okay. So why? Good. Maybe it's not. Oh, hang on. No, that's not right. That's not right. Okay, I might have screwed something with my touch. Copy, paste. Oh, no, I can't copy and paste. Right, okay, hang on. Reset. What have I got with my reset? Right. It's finding the wrong address, I think. Okay, let's try that. So the touch IC can have two I2C addresses, and you set it by how you initialize the IRQ pin. And this must be using an old version of the library of my touch driver. No, still. At least it's quieter now. Oh, hang on. I think there's something. I think the actual issue is something with the PRO Arduino install. So another reason I'm not doing this in Arduino is I have to use 3.11. So the latest is 3.32 of the Arduino core, and all these work. The problem is they've sometime after 3.11, either at the IDF level or at either at the IDF level or the ESP32 framework level, they've changed something to do with the RGB peripheral, which is what I use for the screen. And if I use a later version, there's a lot more contention between the screen and flash/PSRAM. So you get a lot more flickering on the screen. Maybe I will. I'll let it install new version. So even in my current version of, this is the source file for a whole bunch of stuff I'm working on. This is the SQUiXL-OS source file, right? Like the project. And even here, I'm using 3.11 still because of that. But let it install this and see what happens. So the RGB peripheral uses PSRAM as its buffer, right? The screen itself has no buffer, no screen buffer. So it uses the S3's PSRAM as a buffer. You can tell it to use SRAM, but there's not enough SRAM for the buffer of the screen, right? A single buffer is more than the whole entire SRAM on the chip, on the ESP32, the SRAM available. So, and because PSRAM is constantly being streamed to the screen, like you don't call write and have it update the screen. It's a live thing, like a CRT, right? It's constantly building the image non-stop all the time. So anytime I need to do anything with PSRAM myself or do something with flash, there's that contention because they're all on the same bus. So if I'm loading something into PSRAM myself, while I'm touching PSRAM, the screen is having problems reading, And so there's flicker, right? There's tearing. And if I'm trying to load things, or like even saving data on Flash and, see that? Just switch track. You load to the next one, 1.8 megabytes, loaded in 1.68 seconds. Anyway, it's, so if I'm saving data, catch you later, old man maker, have a good sleep. While I'm writing to Flash, it can't talk to PSRAM because they're both on the same SPI bus. And that's an expressive thing, right? Like I don't get to put my Flash on a different SPI bus, right? They share the same bus, just with a different CS pin. So it's really problematic, right? Okay, it's updated. Let me build it and see if it actually builds. Stack. It's nothing to do with FreeRTOS. No, there's no, okay, the peripheral itself, the actual physics, it's a peripheral inside the chip, like SPI is a peripheral or UART's a peripheral, right? There is no, I can run something in an RTOS, right? The peripheral itself has its buffer, and it runs itself independently, right? So putting something in an RTOS doesn't make any difference. It's not a CPU thing. It's not a core thing. It's a physical bus contention thing. Okay, you saw that flickering when it was loading? It's still not doing the touch now, but look at this. Now I'm getting stacks of NAC issues. I need to solve this. I want to see if I do it 5A. Let's see if it finds it. So yeah, Colonnado, like it's none of those things are going to make any difference, right? They're totally irrelevant to what the issue is. The issue is there's not enough SRAM for the buffer. It's got to go in PSRAM, and PSRAM and Flash share the same bus, and you can't be talking to them both at the same time, right? If you're reading and writing from Flash, the screen has no access to PSRAM. And when the screen is talking to PSRAM, you can't talk to Flash. And if you're both talking to PSRAM at the same time, it fights. So that flickering there is purely me loading from Flash. Oh, okay. Still not doing touch, but the errors are gone. How weird is that? And it's still not showing the update. This should be right. It should maybe be good enough to operate multicast YouTube. There's no fast enough, and an RTOS doesn't help fast enough. There's only so, like, if I need to load something from Flash, let's say if I need to load 1 megabyte from Flash, I need to load 1 megabyte from Flash. Multitasking doesn't make that faster or slower, right? And while that 1 megabyte is loaded, the screen can't talk to its buffer, so it flickers. So, like, you know, there's no multitasking. There's nothing to do with multitasking. This is not a CPU level thing. It can't be altered or changed in any way at the CPU level. It's until Espressive allow the Flash and the PSRAM to exist in two different SPI buses, which means I also lose a whole bunch of I/O because I'd need to map the whole bus to Flash. But until they live in two different places, physical SPI peripherals, there's nothing I can do about it. And they don't support that, right? The whole bootloader and chip and everything else is designed to run off the one SPI bus. Maybe there's some way of hacking 2 different buses into the core IDF, but that's well beyond my pay grade. I don't know why it's not printing. Go update. If it's running, if it hasn't finished, if it's finished, well, shouldn't even have to stop it, but this should now be, see that? You see the screen then? That's the contention. And that the only difference is I moved to a newer version. This is a good description of all the issues that you face. Hang on. Why is that pointing to Google Share? So all that screen stuff you're seeing then, that's because of the version of the Arduino Core I'm using. If I go back to the previous version, it doesn't do that. So if I go back to here and enable this one again, when I say previous version, 3.11, so I have to reload it. That share document isn't loading. Oh no, there it is. Right, okay. Yeah, so they go through all the stuff here about shared, but like you can do multi-buffer, like for swapping of buffers, but that doesn't help because you actually get twice the problem because you're trying to, the screen's grabbing from one buffer while you're trying to write to a second buffer the whole time, and you actually get more contention. I tried it, right? That's the double frame buffer one. And yeah, they go through, there's a bounce buffer. The problem with the bounce buffer, I've tried that. It only updates a certain bit of the screen at a time. I lose 2/3 of the screen performance. Like I go down to like 5 frames per second on the screen updates, right? Yeah, there's no solution. And they're very clear on this, right? How we can enable is it execute in place feature? Fetch instructions and read-only data. Anyway, it's the bounce only. I mean, they go through heaps of caveats, right, in every single thing, and they make it very clear. So I'm just going to stop this sound for a second. And then the other problem is not everything in the IDF is exposed to the Arduino core, right? So, for instance, what they say is what you do is you stop and start the peripheral. If you need to do something intensive on flash, you stop it so that we don't get the tearing, right? Okay, well, that doesn't really work because if you stop it, the screen goes black. It doesn't persist. There's no there's no memory, there's no buffer on the screen. So if you stop the screen, you see black, like you're seeing right now, right? So I don't want that either. But they've actually got a thing where you can check the VSync state. And then when the VSync toggles, you can change the speed, the refresh speed. So that's how the screen works. It's just like an old CRT, right? It's got a HSync, a VSync, and it's constantly updating the screen. You've got what they call a front and back porch, right? Vertical and horizontal porches, it's the same of the areas you had on a CRT that you'd do all your processing in when the scan line was in this section or this section, so you don't interrupt the screen. It's all the same type of stuff. So you can actually set the speed. The problem is the Arduino core doesn't expose. So I've actually got a look here. I've got this thing, change RGB frequency, right? And what it does is it sets the clock. Now, the slower I make the SPI on the screen, the slower the screen runs, the less flicker and contention, but the lower the frame rate. So, for instance, when I'm dragging screens with my SQUIXL source code at a really low SPI speed, the screen goes, like it's unusable, right? And the faster I make it, the buttery smooth the screen update is, but the worse the flickering and the offsetting is if I need to access Flash, or if I'm writing a whole bunch of stuff to the SPI buffer, to the PSRAM buffer for the screen. The problem is this here, right? You can't call that whenever you want. You have to call it only on a VSync change. But I can't get, there's a callback to get the VSync here, and this doesn't fire on the Arduino core. So if it doesn't fire, when I tell it to change this, I want it to wait until the VSync happens and then change the speed. But it never fires, so it never changes this thing. And so, but if I change it just by calling it, I get screen tearing. I get all weird stuff, right? So and there's no solution for this. So I thought about making a new SQUiXL. I'm not going to, right? But hear me out. A new SQUiXL with an ESP32P4 as the main brain and a C6 as a Wi-Fi coprocessor, right? Whatever. And that also has the RGB peripheral. It's got 32 megabytes of octal PSRAM, and I can do whatever size flash. The problem is, it's exactly the same problem, right? Hey, Ray, the flash and the PSRAM share the same bus. It's the same issue, even on the P4. The only thing I'd get on the P4 is a lot more I/O, so I didn't have to share microSD with S3, with the MP3, with the I2S audio amp. And I'd even have enough I/O to also add an I2S microphone, whatever. But I still have the same screen tearing contention issue because the peripheral still has to use the PSRAM, and flash and PSRAM are on the same bus. It's infuriating, right? There is nothing I can do to solve this unless I can do it can go faster, but there is no faster PSRAM out there. Like at the end of the day, it would I can already run the PSRAM and the flash at 120 megahertz, right? My flash is 133 megahertz. The PSRAM can do, well, maybe it can only do 100. No, I think it can do 133. SD card, USB. Huh? What? What's read from SD card, USB bus for? I don't understand. So the P4 can't, it's not really going to make any difference if it's shared bus, right? Sure, maybe I'll get less contention because of the faster throughput, but I'm still going to get contention, right? The only way to not get contention is for the S3, so for the P4 or the S3 to allow two different buses for the flash and the PSRAM. That's it. That's the only way. Start restarting after I checked. Hey, Eunice, what? After S3, touch, start restarting after I check RTC driver V2. I don't know what that means. I don't know why the touch isn't working. I mean, I've got touch working everywhere. Like, I don't know what that is. I messed around with a lot of stuff. I have a funny feeling that, again, something to do with my Platform IO install. Like, I was getting issues where I had to just, like, the Adafruit Live, I couldn't find SPI, right? And these weren't finding the network libraries. Like, there's something wrong with the install. I don't know. I was going to try this one thing. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go back to the other firmware anyway to show you something else cool I'm working on for SQUiXL. So anyway, this bus thing is not solvable. But the P4 has a MIPI interface, so I could use a MIPI screen. Really weird. Version 2 of the iSig. But there is no menu config. I'm not using IDF. I'm using Arduino. So, okay, if I do this, I'm just going to put that in download mode, right? I'm going to get rid of that. And this is the same project in Arduino. SQUIXL. This is going to be a pain. I'm going to flash this. What? Something going on bad on this. Let me library manager ESP8266 audio. What does it think? What version does it think I've got? Oh, it doesn't think it's installed. And it's released a new version. Maybe I wonder if that fixes that issue. Let me go to here. Right, sorry, I don't have the audio stuff installed here. Are you 100% certain the same client is, I believe that has 16 lane PS RAM and up to quad SPI flash, which has its own pins. Okay, if that's the case, that's different, but not the version. Okay, hang on. Be interesting if expressive. Okay, let me check. But I don't want to make another SQUIXL with the P4, right? I mean, to be honest with you, like it's D2 of the datasheet. Yeah, I was just going to grab the datasheet now. I'm sure I've got a version of the datasheet somewhere, but I just want to grab the latest. Yeah, but I don't want to make another. Can I just go straight to the datasheet? Do I have to actually go onto the... Wow. Right, because I can use a MIPI screen, which then... But that means I can't use the SQUIXL screen. I need to find different screens, right? So, and it's got to be a MIPI screen. It's a whole different thing. Like, it's all... Hang on, is this... Okay, let me try just going now. What page did you say? 32. Chip and flash requires off-package flash to store application firmware data. P4 supports up to 64 mega flash. I thought it went higher, which can connect through SPI dual quad. P4 includes 16 line PS RAM. I like how they can't name. Look like FLSHAD for flash here. Can everyone read that? Can I get this bigger? Why is it not zooming the document in? They've spelt flash 3 different ways. Okay, hang on.
Intermit text says huzzah.
View. Zoom in. It's not zooming the... Wait, let me... Data sheet. Let me download it. Because that's just ridiculous. Is that flash? Is that... No, look, it's still compiling. Downloads. What version of the datasheet is this? What? I don't want to... Oh my god, that downloaded the link. If I click on it, it shows the PDF, but if I... Oh my god. Expressive. You are so annoying. Downloads. I don't want the document. Oh my god. Let me download. It downloaded just a link. Okay, I'm getting frustrated. Whatever. I'll look at this later. The point is, I really don't want to make a P4 version. Since the Flash PS-RAM ESP2 uses two separate SPO buses, moving Flash content to PS-RAM will actually increase the load of the PS-RAM bus. Of course it will. Right, two different buses. It's going to be slower. Okay, that's just flashing. Okay, reset it. Yeah, this is not finding. Just hold on a second. This is so annoying. Replace, and okay. Got to recompile. Anyway, I'm not making a P4 version of SQUiXL. It is what it is. I work around the limitations on it. And yeah, I'm just going to let this compile, see if this fixes the touch thing. But either way, I'm going to go back to the other firmware because I want to show you what else I'm working on. I didn't realize there was separate flash. I knew that there was a 16-lane PS-RAM. The chips I got here are the 32 megabyte ones, which is a great amount of PS-RAM. You know, and that would allow me to, you know, have a 10 megabyte buffer for MP3 files and have all the rest of the firmware. But maybe one day I'll look at doing a new thing. I don't know. It's not getting touch. But look, I'm getting this here. There's something weird going on. See that? It's showing the progress. And I'm getting no errors on the touch, but no touch working. I wonder if I've damaged my device. It could be my device. This gets thrown around a lot. Like I take it to work, home, to clients. This is a dedicated LCD controller peripheral. What do you mean? An external one? How would it talk? Where would it get the data for the screen? Like, where would it get the buffer? There's no buffer. Like, how would I get content to it? That's.
Chat has disconnected.
A dedicated controller would be a different screen, right? A screen with its own buffer or whatever. Ooh, hang on. Ooh. Am I getting a package today? 1 second. This is important. Sorry, I got client boards coming. And they're coming today instead of tomorrow, which is awesome because I need to start building them. Okay, I am going to close that. And where did I just put my... Here, right. Let's see what happens when I flash this. This is my standard firmware. I've not pushed these changes yet. Oh. Go away, Arduino. MPEG video plus MP3 in sync from SD MMC. Playing 2 second on ESP32 S3. Hello, Art Daniel. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, but how's that an external IC going to help me? With this particular screen, the buffer is in the S3. There is no way I can connect to and talk to an IC that then talks to the screen fast enough to have the buffer be on the S3, and if it's going to be an IC controller for the screen, it has to have its own 8 megabytes of quad speed RAM. What you're suggesting can't possibly work or exist for this screen. You seem to... That's not how this screen works. There is no memory in this screen. There is nothing to draw into. What you draw into is on the S3. It doesn't exist. This is not a normal screen. So you can't do a normal screen thing with it. Yeah, a single data pin SD is not great for that. Okay, are we back? Yeah, see, touch isn't working now at all. I think I've damaged... Now, let me just restart it. Physically turn it off. I wonder if I've just got it into a bad state. 480 by 480. So it takes a chunk of memory. 480 by 480 with 565 color. Yeah, my touch is broken, maybe. It was working this morning. Yeah, I've got 720 by 720 ones as well. But that's requires too big a buffer. Yeah, this is bizarre. Oh, touch is back. Oh, now I get to show you what... Something weird's going on with this. Okay, well, I just gave that away. So for those that have a SQUiXL, you'll know that when you first get it, it runs Wi-Fi Manager in the background. And so you use your phone or whatever to set up the Wi-Fi. But I've started working finally. I've wanted to do this for a while, of adding Wi-Fi Manager. Oh, hang on. Let me change screens. Wi-Fi Manager, it's not fully functional yet. You can't select these yet, and these don't bring up the keyboard properly, as you can see. Whoops. And the join doesn't do anything yet. But the idea is that you can... Oh, yeah, there is something bizarre going on this device. Oh, well. Maybe because of the keyboard, opening the keyboard. The point is, I'm adding Wi-Fi Manager on UI, so you'll be able to... Just one of the things I've been working on in this update. Pushing the limits. I don't know about the limits, but yeah, weird. Anyway, so every time you go into it, it scans for networks. And the idea is you'll be able to, just like a normal Wi-Fi Manager, you'll be able to select the one you want, fill in the password, or just type it in directly, click join, and that'll add your Wi-Fi credentials. so you don't have to use your phone. I'll still leave the phone version there, but yeah. So, but as you can see, I mean, in terms of UI and speed and stuff, it's at a pretty good level. Like if I go like this, like that's saved the data in the background. It's gone into Flash and saved the change, and there's no screen tearing. But if I flash that exact same code with newer Arduino core, when I click one of those things and it goes to save it in Flash, the whole screen goes, shakes around, and then fixes itself. Like it's, so they've changed something under the hood. I haven't determined what that is yet. So I need to literally go through. So the 3.11 version that I'm using, that's the most stable, right? I can't remember what. Let me see if I can find out what version of IDF it's using. See, 3.3 is IDF 551, 330 is 55, 342. It's going to be way back. 333 here. So it's using IDF 5.3.2. So somewhere between 5.3.2 and 5.5, and I know they've changed a bunch of stuff, but I need to go through all of the changes they've done to the RGB peripheral and work out what they've changed so I can work around it or compensate. It could be that my timing for my front and back porches are now out or something out. I don't know. Configuring the screens is not easy, and even though there's a lot of different manufacturers with these screens, they're not, and they're using the same driver, the configuration for them aren't compatible because they tweak the driver to do whatever. And so so if you look here, source. So go here. This is Larry's library, his SPI LCD library. So this is my configuration, right, for my screen. So I'm not using SPI, I'm bitbagging SPI. These are the I/O I'm using, and then this is my front and back porch and pulse width, and then vertical, that's horizontal, and there's a vertical sync. If you look at these settings here, this is for another screen. It's using exactly the same driver, but those settings here do not work on mine at all. They make my screen jump back and forwards, right? And then here's another one. This is for some JC8, whatever. That's an 800 by 480, but it's using the same driver, and these port settings don't work at all either, right? And if I look at Adafruit's, they've got a board that's compatible with different screens, but they're set up for a 480 by 480 screen that they sell has a different configuration again, and that doesn't work on my screen either. So it's frustrating trying to get the right settings that don't flicker, that don't corrupt the screen. The problem with corrupting the screen when you're reading and writing from Flash or hammering PSRAM is that it doesn't always correct itself. So you can end up with it offset permanently where it thinks it's 0, but it's not. So the compromise I found was these port settings at this speed for the screen, which isn't as fast as I can go, gives me, unless I'm hammering Flash, it gives me no issues unless I update to a new version of the Arduino core. And there's a lot of advantages of updating. The Arduino core's got stacks of fixes in it, especially for things like Wi-Fi and potentially audio streaming from the internet and stuff. But if the screen flickers, what's the point? So, yeah. So I hope to have this update out in maybe few days or into this week, up at least the source code pushed to Git. I haven't pushed it yet, so you would have seen here. There's lots of uncommitted things in here. Cool. So, like, even things like I can't use my board definition for SQUiXL because that was actually released in 3.20. And if I move to 3.20 or 3.21, I get the screen tearing. It's just really annoying. So it's referencing the nano, which is the same. It doesn't matter because I'm overriding the settings here. Anyway. So I'm going to clean up this other. I'm going to work out what's happening with the touch on my. There's something wrong with my device specifically, right? This is not a SQUiXL issue. I mean, I erase the device. I put MicroPython on it. I do something on there. I erase it. I flash a whole bunch of Arduino stuff. I put this back on. I'm constantly changing Arduino core versions and trying it all on this one device. I should actually give myself multiple devices. To do it on. But anyway, so it's easy to get this whole thing into a spin, right? Where, especially with that, the touch driver, it can get stuck in its reset state and doesn't work anymore, which is what we were seeing before. But it's obviously working now. So if I was to, actually, if I reflash this back on, I'm just curious. If I flash this back on, I want to know if touch will work now. It probably will. So there you go. And I just built a new batch of SQUiXLs the other day. So I have, well, at least 12 in stock. Yeah. Chat's very quiet today. So now I want to play with the P4. I've got stacks of P4s on my stacks. I've got 15 or 20 or something. I want to play with them, and now I don't want to make a new SQUiXL. I don't want to then be working on SQUiXL code that isn't compatible with the current SQUiXL. Nope, still not touching, still not working. How weird. Oh well. Got on a bus to home. Cool. What I wanted to do, what I was expecting to do this stream, was not have touch issues, and I actually wanted to play with that interface and make a little player window that showed you the track and its progress, and which is why I got that progress printing to the log. But I don't know why none of that's working in Platform.io for whatever reason. So, infuriating. But I guess I'll do that another time. Now, the problem is I can't really add this to the main SQUiXL firmware because I'm already using most of the PSRAM. There's only like a couple of megabytes of PSRAM free. And so the only buffer I can create would be enough to play 45 seconds of a music track. So not really ideal. But instead, I want to get MP3 streaming going from the internet. But I need the new version of the Arduino cores. So either way, screwed. Screwed either way. Anyway, I think I've spoken too much now. I got half a cold coffee. Incredible. P4. I'm not overly interested in the P4. So what I don't understand with the P... Sorry, not the P4. What I can't work out is when you use a whatever chip and an ESP32 coprocessor, call it a coprocessor for the Wi-Fi, for the radio, right? How you can't use things like the web, like ESP async web server, or things like anything that is designed to talk to any library or code that's designed to talk to the radio on an S3 or a C6 or whatever, right? None of that will work because there's no radio in the P4, and the radio is external via a bus, and you're not flashing that thing, you're talking to it via their, whether, not AT commands, whatever their API is to request data and get data back. But none of that's compatible with any of the tools. It acts like a radio can talk, right, but it doesn't talk to it as a peripheral like the Wi-Fi peripheral. Like, you can't go include Wi-Fi.h in your code. There's no radio in P4. You know what I mean? So really, it's transparent. So all the existing code works. I don't understand how it does that. Like, how would I use, the async web server? Or how would I start up Wi-Fi Manager, for instance, right? Or, you know what I mean? Streaming off the internet sounds awesome. Surely all the hardware for that is already there. Yeah, they made a. You can take a look at the ESP integration for it. The ESP Home. I don't understand the ESP Home stuff. I looked a few times at ESP Home to see what's involved with getting SQUiXL going, and I can't work out how that stuff. I mean, I can, but anyway. So the problem with MP3 streaming is it used to work great with Arduino Core 2. On the Arduino Core 3, Espressif decided to reduce the TCP buffer size to make more SRAM available. And the buffer size is not big enough to stream MP3 or whatever from the internet now. You get stuttering and buffer underflow and all sorts of stuff because the packet size isn't big enough. And you can change the packet size in ESP IDF, but none of that's exposed in the Arduino core. And so they've only recently, in some of the later versions, started increasing the size of the buffer again. And so with the buffer where it was, you couldn't stream. Like, you'd have to find, 11 kilohertz, 64 kilobit stream somewhere, and still not even guaranteed to get the data through and not have stuttering. So that was the problem, AJ. They made a decision on the 3.0 core, to make more SRAM available for things like TLS and other things. That was a problem, right? Like, if you try to access two different HTTPS websites, you couldn't, because it would fail on the second TLS call because there wasn't enough SRAM left, which is why they reduced the buffers and they would optimize other things, right, to make that work, with the downside that streaming stopped. Just works on the P4. Interesting. Okay, I don't know how they do that, but if that's the case, then I'm now less reluctant to look at it, because I couldn't understand how that would all just work. So under the hood, they just then talk to... But, okay, so you're saying that's on a P4 thing, but you could technically do that on anything, right? You could do it on... I could be running an S3 with a C6 micro thing and do the same, right? If you actually request for smaller weight ranges, header values... No, the issue was it wasn't just the HTTP request, it was the forced DNS lookup that has to happen, and all sorts of stuff. It would run out of memory. Like, you'd get a out of memory on the DNS lookup, for instance, or whatever, and you can't cache your HTTP S address as an IP address. It must do a DNS lookup as part of the connection, and all sorts of things would go. Yeah, they were out of memory and at the core stuff. And of course, a lot of the things that you can tweak in the IDF, you can't tweak in Arduino. So, and the most people that were tripping up on it were Arduino users. Can even pass IP to the, I believe, etc. But I haven't done a lot with that myself. Okay, that's really interesting stuff. Okay, that's given me between the separate flash and that. I'm now like I've had these PS4s sitting here for ages, 6 months, 7 months, and I've been reluctant to use them. I mean, the P4 support's only really been getting worked on recently. Like it came out what 2 IDF versions ago, but it was early, and I'd want to use a C61 as the radio, and of course C61 only just came out, or even a C5 as the radio, but support for that's only just starting to hit in IDF now. And again, very early with Arduino, super early. So, yeah, I'm sick of jumping the gun on Espressive stuff and then having my hardware stuck forever until they add more compatibility. C6 is unobtainium? Oh, C5, right, yeah. Yeah, C5's not gone into mass production yet. They're still at the sample stage, but they're at final. Like, apparently whatever the current sample is what they're going to production on. Twice I've had C5 chips offered to me, and then when I go, yep, and they've said, sorry, actually we can't ship yet. We're making a change. So I'm hoping it's stable now. The problem with C5 is, you know, okay, it's their first chip with 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and who knows, you know, you're talking about a design that's going to have 2 antennas, 2 radios. No one don't know what the switching is going to be like, and you know, I mean, how many years of the S3 or how many decades has the ESP32 been out for? Not decades. What, 7 years the ESP32 has been out, and they're still fixing Wi-Fi problems, right? How long is it going to take them to get the 5G, 5 gigahertz stuff going? I don't know. I was very keen on making a C5 board, but again, it's a small chip with limited I/O. I don't even have enough I/O on the C5 to make a tiny C5 board. It's frustrating. Like, they are really cutting down. Like, they're really considering all of these chips to be co-processors now, rather than really useful as a microcontroller with lots of I/O and lots of peripherals. Like, none of the C6, C61, C5, all those things, none of them have the SDIO peripheral, so you can't do eMMC with them. They've got limited other peripherals compared to the S3 or the S2 or the original ESP32. Like, they're cutting back functionality inside the chip. And I really think they're aiming for these things just to be coprocessors, radio coprocessors, and then do everything else through a bigger or different chip. And that's a shame, because yeah, it's just really limiting. 16 LC, yeah. It'd be nice to be able to run a higher pixel screen, right? So this is using the 8-bit LCD. Like, the SQUiXL is using the 8-bit LCD thing, but it's only 565 color. So I'm sharing not sharing. I've bit 0 and 1 of red and blue are shared. Whatever. I'm I mean, there's not enough I/O to do 16. How would you, even on the P4? God, you run out of I/O so quickly. And that was really the limit. Like, I wanted to on SQUiXL, I wanted to add some extra I2C devices. Like, I wanted to put an IMU on there, at least, whatever. And the problem is, I can't really stick the IMU on the same I2C bus as the other things are on there because there's already a bus contention, right? I'm limited to how fast I can run the touch and other things because, you know, I've got the RTC and the haptic engine and the touch and what else is on the I2C bus already. So I really want a second bus, but I've got no spare I/O, so I can't do a second bus, right? So, you know, it limits what other things I can add. And then I'd really love to get a microphone in there as well. But anyway, made it to the airport, no dramas. You got there in time? How's the airport Wi-Fi? It must be good. You must be close to the airport. Or I don't know what time you left, so... Yeah, anyway. There's plenty of real estate space on the SQUiXL PCB. Now, so there's plenty of real estate. Like, I could easily fit a P4, right? It's got external flash anyway. P4 and a radio up here, you know, and lots of other peripherals. But I didn't want to make another product. Like, I don't, yeah, I really didn't want to. I don't sell enough SQUiXLs to justify me making another one, a different one, especially one that won't be compatible firmware-wise with the previous, right? It's just the way it is. Like, I don't really have much of a choice, well, without annoying other people. People have already bought SQUiXLs. Yeah. There's a potential for more, just not enough I/O. That would be good. Some way of adding, I'm not talking about an I/O expander, some way of, if I could add a coprocessor that can do Wi-Fi, it'd be cool if I could add a coprocessor that allowed me to then run I2S audio or whatever on that. Like, have a second ESP32 on there that had some form of high-speed bus, right? So I lose, let's say I lose 8 I/O on the S3 to go to this one, and I lose 8 there, but I end up with, you know, 12 or 14 I/O over here instead of the 8. It's like I gain 6 I/O. Does that make sense? Or something like that would be really cool. It needs an ESP32 just for audio, one for Wi-Fi.
Internet Tech says, "Ha, I've wished for the same."
But that would be, yeah, like an ESP32 cluster. That would be great. 2 S3s running next to each other, right? And all they did was one was doing one thing and one was doing other things, and you just, you know, with a high-speed bus between them, like, that would be killer. Because the second one wouldn't even need PSRAM. Like, the second one could just use internal, like, embedded flash, and or even 8 meg flash, 8 meg PSRAM, whatever. It doesn't need a lot, right? It just needs a, you know, a high speed, like the LCD peripheral, like an 8-bit bus, but for communicating. Oh, that would be just awesome. That would be great. Can someone do that, please? Can someone make that for me? I'll gladly stick 2 S3s on here. No problem. 2 S3s instead of a P4, and that would give me full compatibility still. Anyway, it's not going to happen. It's a dual port. It's dual port. Not PSRAM. No. I mean, you can get dual port other RAM, but you can't interface that with an S3. Um, so the other option would be to find a. The other option would be an FPGA. Just hear me out. An FPGA with stacks of, like, again, with at least 8 meg of octal PSRAM. It's got to be octal. It's got to be fast PSRAM for the screen. And have that go to the screen. So you'd make the screen, like Eunice was saying earlier about it, like an LCD.
Tech says project paused. What's that? There is no limit where we are going.
Yeah, right. Well, of course, I'm just assuming that money is not important, and that if I made one, people would spend easily thousands of dollars on it. Not any way to achieve the dual S3s by stacking your existing S3 boards using stack through headers. I would not think so. No. Like, you can't attach all the IO if all the IO attach it to each other, then you can't attach anything to them. I don't know how that would work. Every IO would need to have a mux on it to switch which CPU is using it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that would work. You ever hear the rain? Oh my god, that is loud. So an FPGA with a stack of PSRAM for the buffer that it talks to the screen. So that's like the LCD controller, right? And if we had at least an octal SPI octal going to that, so octal will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, so that's still more. Oh no, but we don't need the porches. Right, I could save a bunch of I/O on the S3. Right, so the reason there's no I/O free, just so we, let me just let's open something up in KiCode. Hang on. SQUIXL. Okay, this is SQUIXL. SQUIXL schematic. God, I hate freaking Mac OS 26. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. So here's the problem, right? So here's the S3. Okay. How do I... You're not going to let me move. Okay, there's the S3, right? So all the R's, all the G's, all the B's, right, are the parallel interface to the screen. Oh, catch you later, Dave. Thanks for joining, right? But also, there's the PWM is required, right? Clock, DE, HSync, and VSync. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 I/O just for the screen, not including touch, right? Then there's 3 more. It's an I2C bus, and an interrupt, but there's 3 more. I mean, that is more I/O than any other ESP32 modern chip has, like a C6, C5, C3, C2, whatever, right? Only the S3's got enough I/O for that, and as it is, that's pretty much it. What I'm left with is I've got 4 I/O that I use for my mux, and I've got 2 interrupts, right? I need an interrupt, and as it turns out, these interrupts aren't even on the pins I want, but I need an interrupt for the RTC, or I can't do alarms, and I need an interrupt for the fuel gauge, or I can't do low battery voltage, right? And so I could get rid of those 2 and have 2 spare I/O, but 2 spare I/O is not enough for anything. I can't put an amplifier on it. I can't put a microphone on it, and I can't do SD card on 2IO. I could put another I2C bus on there and put more I2C peripherals, but I have no pins for their interrupts, right? And I'm talking about pins that do wake, like wake the S3. Like I don't even have a spare pin to do a wake from deep sleep when it detects 5 volts. Yeah, I could potentially use a PDM, but I've got stacks of I2S MEMS mics here, and I've got stacks of code base for them, and I don't really want to look, I could possibly look at whatever, but I'm still losing those interrupts to do that. So, and then the interesting thing is the screen itself requires other I/O that I'm now bit banging. So I've got an LCD reset, LCD data and clock, and a CS. Those 4 are required. I don't have 4 spare I/O on the S3. That's why they go through the I/O expander. Look at all the things I'm doing on the I/O expander that I don't have free S3 things for, right? And they're all things that I don't need a peripheral for, but I have to bit bang the screen startup. I'm software bit banging the initialization of the screen because I don't have any spare SPI pins or any spare I/O at all. And I can't use this I/O here because it's octal PSRAM. If I had quad PSRAM, I'd have these I/O free, but my PSRAM access will be twice as slow, and twice as slow means twice as much contention with flash. So way more flickering, and I have to run the screen much slower. Daisy Chan, no, the issue is not I/O expanders. I've got free I/O expander pins. Is that there's nothing else I can stick on the I/O expander because everything else is a peripheral, or which you can't do on the I/O expander, or it's an interrupt pin that I need on an RTC pin because I need it to be able to wake the ESP32 S3 from deep sleep. So the issue is not I/O expanders. And I can't even add more I/O muxes. I could, but what am I going to mux? I can't mux the screen things. They're constantly being used. I could I/O mux the interrupts, maybe. So when it's awake, those interrupt pins are something else. But that means I also can't have an alarm go off or a low battery use fire if the S3 is awake, right? So I lose that functionality, and I've still only got 2 I/O. How does that help me? Right? Even if I got rid of the touch interrupt and just did software polling, that would give me 3. But 3 I/O would be enough for I2S audio out, but I lose all my interrupts. And then I can't do touch. Like I've got touch, like this is asleep right now. Oh, no, it's not. I've put in whatever. I've got touch the screen to wake from deep sleep. Well, I would lose that without having the interrupt there. But you can't get screens like this, right? This type of screen, this size, this pixels, with that doesn't require that has its own buffer, right? To do that, you need to go for a MIPI screen, and you can't do MIPI on the S3. So I can put a shit screen on, but the whole point was these are really beautiful screens. They've got really nice, awesome touch, 480 by 480, beautiful color, really vibrant screens, and that was the whole point. But the caveat is there's no buffer, and this is how they work. And so I could do it without the peripheral. So that's what. So Pomeroni have got their product. Can't remember what it's called, that uses the same screen, and they do it all through software. They don't. They're not using an SP32. They've got an RP2350, I think, and which has no LCD peripheral. So they're doing it all through the the PIO stuff. But the only reason they can do it is because they're not doing 565 color. They're doing 256 color palettes. Now I could switch over to doing palettes and 256 colors, and I can free up 6 IO, and I could probably get the screen contention rate down because the buffer size I would need in PSRAM would be half, right? But you'd be limited to only 256 colors on the screen rather than 565 color palette, which is what? How many is 565? Is 65,000 colors? Like, you know what I mean? Dramatically compromise the visuals on the screen. And that's the compromise they made. Well, they didn't have a choice because they can't do more colors because there's no access to memory. Like, you can't do that. They've got no place to stick a buffer, right? In my case, I've got the place to stick a buffer, and it's a octal buffer, so it's fast, but the contention and the number of GPIOs. Or I could remove one IO off each color and make it 444, right? But that'll only free up 3 IO. I got that. And but the problem is the peripheral itself doesn't support 444. So, and there's no libraries out there to support 444. So the peripheral itself still has to send 565. So you'd have to translate the 444 to 565 in a buffer somewhere to have it work. Okay, there's just no native support for 444. So it's not really an option. Not if I'm using their peripheral. Right? I'd have all of my normal buffers for all of the sprites and stuff in 444, but it would have to get converted to 565 in the main buffer before it's being sent. So you got that overhead as well. Yeah. Right, you're constantly packing and unpacking the bits. Yeah, it's just, and then so anytime I do a screen read, because I screen read a lot, which is all I'm doing is reading out of the buffer, the PSRAM buffer, right? It's not on the screen, it's in PSRAM on the chip. So that way I can do transparency over it and stuff like that. So I'd have to constantly be messing with the pixels one way and then mixing pixels the other way. Right, but I don't have PIO. S3 doesn't have PIO. Right? So again, can't do it. But that's what I was thinking. An FPGA that was designed to be the screen driver that had access to its own chunk of PSRAM with as many lanes as we can get hooked up, and the limitation will be an SPI interface from the S3 to the PSRAM for sending data. So that'll be slow to fill the buffer. But you could, technically the S3 can, if it can do a quad, if I could hook up a quad interface to an FPGA, that would be no slower, only a fraction slower than talking quad to the PSRAM. But I'd have no contention ever, right? I'd be writing to the buffer into the FPGA, and that could be double buffering or whatever, right? That can be writing. I could probably, I could still do all of the other buffers locally, and then so I would only need maybe maybe 4 megabytes of quad. I could do dual buffer. Anyway, right, but I don't want to write a driver. I don't want to write a graphics card. Right? Much easier just to send pixels than graphics commands. Sorry. Because there isn't one that exists, and I don't want to use a little VGL. And anyway. If only I had unlimited time. If only. But I don't. Okay. 2 hours. I think it's time for me to... I have to go downstairs and I need to pull parts off 89 feeders and load. I've got 89 reels. That's not, so 81. No, 79 reels downstairs of uniques and 2 trays of parts that I need to load on the pick and place machine. That's going to take me all day. to swap out that many feeders. Not fun, but I can't afford to buy another 81 feeders or 79 feeders. So, yeah. Unlimited time, unlimited I/O pins. Unlimited I/O pins would not lead unlimited time, but I need an ESP32S4 with more I/O. That's what I need. Even having separate flash won't help me on the S3 because I don't have any I/O for them. Or an intern. Yeah, or an intern. That rain is insanely loud. Can you all hear it? Wow. MIPI pins would be available to GPIO. That would help a lot. Oh, they're not available? What do you mean? Well, they are. You can. Why can't you make them as GPIO? Oh, you mean they can only be MIPI? Right. They can't be GPIO. Right. I understand. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I know. But if you had a MIPI screen, do MIPI screens have a screen buffer in them? I've not looked. Like, you can get a MIPI version of my screen. I'm pretty sure you can. See, I need to go, but now I want to look at that. Hang on. MIPI by 480 MIPI screen. I'm sure you can with MIPI interface. What? Look how expensive they are. Anyway, so I'm curious, do these have a buffer, or do these still have the same problem where you still need the buffer? So I was a bit disappointed with a chip that had many pins. Yeah. Yeah, you can't really do much with a little, yeah. I'm sick of working on little low-res screens. That's why I did this. That's why I did SQUiXL. Okay, if that's using a 7701, it's going to be the same problem. It's gonna not have. It won't have its own buffer, so that won't help. Well, it'll help in that I don't have to use any I/O for it, right? It'll just be the MIPI interface. What other MIPI screens are out? I mean, there should be. It's a round one, 480 by 480 round. Oh, look at that. That's cool. I've seen these ones. Car monitor, but look at that. 280 by 1424. Yeah, I've seen the 720 ones, but I'm curious about all these odd shaped ones. Wow, that is wild. Look at that. I mean, that's a huge amount of pixels. How many is that? 240 by, was it? 1424. 341,000 pixels. Wow, it's like 50% more pixels than the screen I've got now. So these 7-inch, those 800 by whatever or 720 whatever, they're boring. 800 by 1200, 8-inch. Holy schmoly. I'm surprised they don't have the 720 by 721 like this. Okay, folks, I'm going to go. Thanks all for joining. Appreciate it. The screen rabbit hole is big. I've also got a whole stack of AMOLED screens here that I've not even shown or done anything with, of all various size, and from watch size to 24 inch, 2.4 inch, Reflowmaster Pro style size screens, all AMOLED. Time. I don't have time. I need more time. Time. Okay, folks, have a great week. I will catch you all next week. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. And have a good trip, Matt. And thanks for your super chat, although you're probably not watching anymore. You're probably on a plane. Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care.